The War Council of the Vrexian Empire had never been so confident. Commander Thrakos stood before the holographic display, his forearms crossed in what his species considered the ultimate gesture of superiority. The blue planet rotated slowly before him, ignorant and helpless. Or so he thought. "This will be our easiest conquest yet," he announced to the assembled officers. His voice carried that particular smugness that comes right before the universe decides to teach you a very expensive lesson. Preliminary scans show they have barely left their own atmosphere. Primitive rockets, chemical propulsion. They still use combustion engines for ground transport. Subcommander Valera, who had survived 17 planetary invasions, shifted uncomfortably. "Sir, the cultural analysis team mentioned something about human unpredictability." Unpredictability. Thrakos laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "They're barely a Type 0.7 civilization. What could possibly go wrong?" Famous last words, as humans would say. The invasion fleet dropped out of hyperspace, exactly 3 astronomical units from Earth. 12 dreadnoughts, 40 cruisers, and enough firepower to glass a planet twice over. The Vrexians had done this hundreds of times before. It was practically routine at this point. Thrakos opened a communication channel to Earth, prepared to deliver the standard surrender ultimatum. He had given this speech so many times he could do it in his sleep. "Inhabitants of the planet you call Earth, you are now subjects of the Vrexian Empire. Surrender immediately and you will be spared. Resist and face annihilation. You have 6 of your hours to comply." Then he waited for the inevitable pleading, the desperate negotiations, the offers of tribute. That's what every other species had done. What he got instead was silence. For hours of complete, eerie silence. "Sir," Valera reported, her voice uncertain. "They're not responding to any channels. However, our sensors are detecting unusual activity across their planet." "What kind of activity?" "It appears they're launching things into space. Thousands of objects. Small satellites, debris, old equipment. They're deliberately cluttering their orbital space." Thrakos blinked his 3 eyes in confusion. "That makes no tactical sense whatsoever. Are they trying to build a shield out of garbage?" On Earth, at the United Defense Command Center buried deep beneath the Colorado Mountains, General Marcus Vance was eating a sandwich and watching the alien fleet on 17 different screens. He looked remarkably calm for someone facing an extraterrestrial invasion. "Tell me we got the package to the Chinese," he said between bites. "Confirmed, sir. They've activated Operation Kessler Protocol. Russians did too. Even the French pitched in, and you know how much they hate cooperating." "Beautiful." Vance took another bite. "How long until our guests figure it out?" "Best guess? 20 minutes. Maybe less if they're not completely stupid." Vance grinned. "Oh, they're going to be so pissed." Back on the flagship, alarms started blaring. Thrakos rushed to the tactical display, where his navigation officer looked like he'd just watched his life insurance get canceled. "Commander, we have a problem. The debris field they've created is expanding exponentially. Every collision is causing more debris, which causes more collisions. It's a chain reaction." "So what?" "We can navigate through some floating junk." "Sir, at current expansion rates, that debris field will make atmospheric entry impossible within 4 hours. For anyone, including them." Thrakos stared at the display. "You're telling me these primitives just locked themselves inside their own planet? That's insane. That's suicide." "That's human, sir," Valera said quietly. It got worse. Much worse. The Vrexian fleet attempted to move closer, confident they could simply blast through the debris field. The first dreadnought that tried lost 3 shield generators to a defunct weather satellite traveling at 17,000 miles per hour. The second ship fared even worse when it collided with what appeared to be an old space station toilet. The damage report was deeply embarrassing. "Pull back to a safe distance," Thrakos ordered, his confidence evaporating faster than water in vacuum. "Deploy drone fighters. They're small enough to navigate that mess." General Vance watched the drone fighters launch. He pressed a button on his console. "Phase 2. Light them up." Across Earth, every radio telescope, every broadcast station, every electromagnetic emitter suddenly activated at maximum power. The planet became a screaming beacon of radio noise, pumping out everything from death metal music to soap opera reruns to emergency broadcast tones. The Vrexian drone fighters, which relied on tight beam communications with the mothership, suddenly found themselves deaf and blind. They spun helplessly in space, crashing into each other like drunken bats. Thrakos was no longer smug. How are they doing this? Our intelligence said they were barely radio capable. Sir, they're using every transmitter on their planet simultaneously. The interference is overwhelming our systems. We've lost contact with all fighter drones. On Earth, in a basement in Tokyo, a teenager named Hiro was streaming everything happening in orbit while providing sarcastic commentary. And there goes another alien ship, folks. That's the third one taken out by space trash today. Remember, kids, littering is bad unless you're fighting aliens. Then it's tactical genius. His stream had 40 million viewers. Someone had already made t-shirts. The Vrexian Empire had encountered many defenses before. Energy shields, missile batteries, even psychic attacks from those weird telepathic species in Sector 9. But nobody, absolutely nobody, had ever weaponized their own stupidity quite like this. Sir, the communications officer announced, we're receiving a transmission from Earth. It's on every frequency. I can't block it. Put it through, Thrakos said, dreading what was coming. A human face appeared on the screen. General Vance, still eating his sandwich. Hey there, Commander Thrakos. Nice fleet you've got. Would be a shame if something happened to it. Oh wait, something already did. Listen, we've been monitoring your communications. Your translators are decent, but not perfect. We know you're on a schedule, got other planets to terrorize, and all that. So here's the deal. Thrakos waited, his pride fighting with his growing sense that this invasion had been a terrible mistake. You leave, right now, and we'll call even. No hard feelings. We'll even throw in the recipe for pizza, which, trust me, is worth more than your entire empire. Or you can stick around, and we'll show you what else we can improvise. Fair warning though, we've got a guy in Florida who wrestles alligators for fun, and we haven't even asked him for ideas yet. This is unacceptable, Thrakos said, trying to sound authoritative. We are the Vrexian Empire. We have conquered 300 worlds. Yeah, about that, Vance interrupted. We hacked your database while you were busy dodging space toilets. Turns out those 300 worlds you conquered, they all surrendered without a fight. Every single one. Know what that tells us? Silence. It tells us you've never actually fought anyone who fights back. You're space bullies who've been picking on the introverts of the galaxy. Congratulations, you just found the extrovert. Thrakos looked around his command bridge. His officers were avoiding eye contact. The tactical display showed their fleet scattered and damaged by debris and interference. They hadn't even fired a single shot yet. We need to withdraw and regroup, Valera said quietly. Sir, with respect, humans are clearly insane. Fighting insane opponents is tactically unsound. Before Thrakos could respond, every screen on the bridge lit up with human transmissions. News broadcasts, social media feeds, memes. One image kept repeating. A picture of a human in camouflage holding a rifle with text that read, "We have Florida man. Do you really want to find out what else we've got?" In the background of one news feed, Thrakos could see humans gathering in the streets. They weren't panicking. They weren't fleeing. They were having parties. One group was grilling meat and drinking alcohol while watching the alien fleet through telescopes. They're celebrating, the censor officer said in disbelief. Sir, the humans are treating our invasion fleet like entertainment. That was the moment Thrakos understood. His empire had made a fundamental error in judgment. They had assumed that technological primitiveness meant weakness. They had forgotten that survival in the galaxy required more than just advanced weapons. It required a certain degree of caution, of self-preservation instinct. Humans apparently had none whatsoever. Open a channel, Thrakos said, his voice heavy with defeat. Prepare the fleet for hyperspace jump. We're leaving. Sir. Valera looked shocked. We're retreating? We're not retreating. We're tactically repositioning to, literally, anywhere else. And Valera, send a message to Imperial Command. Tell them to add Earth to the restricted worlds list. Quarantine protocols. Nobody goes near that planet. What reason should I give, sir? Thrakos watched as another piece of space debris, this one emblazoned with what appeared to be a corporate logo, bounced off his flagship shields. Tell them the humans are weaponizing entropy itself. Tell them they turned their own space junk into a minefield. Tell them they're using radio waves like psychological warfare. He paused, searching for the right words. Tell them the humans are absolutely bughouse insane, and if we stay here any longer, they might teach us something that would get us all killed. The Vrexian fleet jumped to hyperspace 6 minutes later, leaving behind several very confused drones and one fighter craft that would later be recovered by humans and turned into a museum exhibit at the Smithsonian. On Earth, General Vance finished his sandwich and looked at his staff. Well, that went better than expected. Jenkins, make sure we send a thank you note to whoever thought of the space toilet thing. That was inspired. Sir, someone asked nervously, won't they come back? With more ships. Vance smiled. Then we show them Phase 3. And trust me, they really don't want to see Phase 3. Nobody asked what Phase 3 was. Given how Phase 1 and 2 had gone, it was probably better not to know. 3 months after the Vrexian retreat, the galaxy had changed. Word travels fast in interstellar space, especially when it involves a supposedly primitive species humiliating one of the major powers. The story of Earth's defense spread through 1,000 worlds like wildfire, growing more elaborate with each retelling. By the time it reached the Outer Rim territories, humans had apparently defeated the Vrexians using nothing but aggressive hand gestures and fermented beverages. Commander Thrakos had been demoted. Twice. He now supervised waste recycling on a mining station in the armpit of nowhere, a posting so miserable that even the rats had filed transfer requests. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was that 5 other species had attempted invasions of Earth since the Vrexian disaster. 5 different empires, each convinced they could succeed where Thrakos had failed. All 5 had retreated within 72 hours. The Karyth Dominion lasted the longest, at 68 hours before their fleet commander developed what human psychologists would call a nervous breakdown. Apparently, humans had responded to their invasion by launching thousands of satellites that did nothing but broadcast cat videos and something called memes. The Karyth, who communicated primarily through formalized information exchange, found the concept of ironic humor so disturbing that 3 officers required psychiatric intervention. The Xinthian collective tried a different approach. They were hive-minded, coordinated, efficient. They sent infiltration pods to land covertly and assess human weaknesses from within. Those pods landed in Australia. The infiltrators lasted 6 hours before requesting emergency extraction. Their report to Xinthian Command was 17 pages of increasingly panicked observations. Apparently, everything in Australia was either poisonous, aggressive, or both. One infiltrator had encountered a creature called a cassowary and now refused to leave his quarters without full combat armor. Another had been chased by something the locals called a drop bear, which according to the report manifested from nowhere like a furry missile of pure hatred. The Xinthian declared Earth a biological hazard zone and left. But tonight, someone new was coming to visit. The Krell Imperium considered themselves the intellectuals of the galaxy. While other species relied on brute force, the Krell used strategy, psychology, and overwhelming data analysis. They had studied the previous failed invasions carefully. They understood the pattern. Humans respond to direct threats with irrational aggression. High Analyst Morven explained to the Imperium Council. However, they are a social species. They value communication and diplomacy. Therefore, we will not invade. We will negotiate. We will offer them a place in our empire willingly. We will use their own psychology against them. The council approved the mission. Finally, someone was approaching this logically. The Krell diplomatic vessel entered Earth's solar system, broadcasting peaceful intentions on all frequencies. No weapons charged, shields at minimum, transponder clearly identifying them as ambassadors. Everything by the book. The response from Earth came within minutes. Krell vessel, this is Houston Space Control. We've been expecting you. Please proceed to coordinates we're transmitting now. Welcome to Earth. Please don't litter. Morven allowed herself a small gesture of satisfaction. See? Rational beings could be dealt with rationally. The Krell ship landed at a specially prepared site in a place called Nevada. As Morven descended the ramp with her delegation, she observed humans waiting. They wore formal clothing and carried no visible weapons. Excellent. A woman stepped forward, extending her hand. Welcome to Earth. I'm Ambassador Patricia Williams. We're pleased to meet you under peaceful circumstances. Morven carefully mimicked the handshake gesture she had studied. Thank you, Ambassador. We come seeking mutual understanding and cooperation. Fantastic. We've prepared a tour to show you our world, help you understand our culture and capabilities. Then we can discuss terms. Terms. Already discussing integration. This was proceeding perfectly. The tour began at what humans called a hospital. Morven watched with interest as medical staff demonstrated their techniques. Primitive by Krell standards, but serviceable. This is Dr. Emily Santos, Patricia said. She specializes in trauma surgery. Emily, tell our guests about your typical day. The doctor smiled tiredly. Well, yesterday I reattached a hand that got caught in a lawnmower, treated a guy who decided to test if he could breathe underwater spoiler. He couldn't, and removed a toy car from someone's digestive system. Don't ask how it got there. Even I don't want to know. Morven processed this. Your people frequently injure themselves through recreational activities? Oh, constantly. Last week someone broke both legs trying to jump their bicycle over a ravine. When we asked why, he said, and I quote, seemed fun at the time. The Krell delegation exchanged concerned glances. Next stop was a military base. General Vance greeted them personally, still eating. This time it was a hot dog. Welcome to Fort Carson. This is where we train our ground forces. Pretty standard stuff. Running, shooting, survival training. Survival training? Morven inquired. Yeah. We drop them in wilderness areas, and they have to make it back. Teaches resourcefulness. Last month, we had a trainee who got lost, so he befriended a wolf pack and led them back to base. The wolves are still here, actually. We're not sure what to do with them. One of them learned to play fetch. Morven was beginning to feel a familiar sensation. The same one Thrakos must have felt. The tour continued. A research laboratory where scientists casually discussed splitting atoms. A place called a theme park where humans voluntarily subjected themselves to gravitational forces that should cause unconsciousness, while screaming and laughing simultaneously. A sporting event where armored humans deliberately collided with each other at high speed for entertainment. That's football, Patricia explained. Been around for over a century. Good clean fun. One player was being carried off the field with what appeared to be a significant injury. He was giving a thumbs-up gesture and grinning. That man is wounded, Morven said. Oh, yeah, that's just a dislocated shoulder. He'll be back next week probably. Humans are pretty resilient. At a university, they met Professor David Kim, who explained human scientific philosophy. Our approach is basically controlled curiosity mixed with aggressive experimentation. See something interesting? Poke it. See what happens. Oh, it exploded? Cool. Let's try again with better shielding. You poke unknown phenomena? Morven asked weakly. Sure. How else would we learn? Last year we discovered a new subatomic particle by essentially smashing atoms together really hard. Everyone said it was impossible until we did it. That's kind of our thing, actually. Doing impossible stuff because nobody told us we couldn't. The final stop was a location called New York City. The delegation stood in Times Square, surrounded by millions of humans going about their daily lives. Screens everywhere showed news, advertisements, entertainment. The noise was overwhelming. This is humanity, Patricia said simply. 7 billion of us, spread across every environment on this planet. We live in deserts, jungles, mountains, Arctic zones. We argue constantly, fight over resources, disagree on literally everything. But when someone threatens us from outside, she gestured to the crowd. A street performer was juggling chainsaws. Someone was selling hot dogs from a cart. A group of teenagers were dancing for money. Absolutely none of them appeared concerned about the alien delegation standing among them. We stop fighting each other and focus on the external problem. Ask the Vrexians how that worked out for them. Morven's diplomatic training kicked in. Ambassador Williams, we came here to offer partnership. Integration into the Krell Imperium. Protection, technology, resources. Surely you can see the benefits. Patricia smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. Hi, Analyst Morven, let me show you something. She pulled out a small device and projected a hologram. It showed space. Hundreds of satellites. Thousands of pieces of tracked debris. And something else. Structures. Platforms. Things that definitely weren't there 3 months ago. After the Vrexian incident, we realized something. We've been thinking too small. That debris field wasn't just defense. It was a proof of concept. So we've been busy. The hologram zoomed in. Massive construction projects in orbit. Solar collectors. Manufacturing facilities. Weapons platforms that made the Krell nervous just looking at them. We built all of this in 3 months. No alien technology. No help. Just humans being stubborn and industrious. Now imagine what we could do in 3 years. 3 decades. We're not looking for protection, analyst. We're not interested in joining someone else's empire. Patricia looked directly at Morven. We're building our own. The silence stretched uncomfortably. Around them, New York continued its chaotic symphony of noise and motion, completely indifferent to the diplomatic crisis unfolding. Furthermore, Patricia continued, we've been monitoring galactic communications. We know about the Vrexians, the Quilven, the Zynthians, and everyone else who tried their luck. You want to know what we learned from those encounters? Morven did not want to know, but was going to find out anyway. We learned that the galaxy is full of civilizations that got comfortable. You advanced to a certain level and stopped innovating. Stopped taking risks. You play by established rules because it's safe and predictable. Well, guess what? We never got that memo. From a nearby coffee shop, someone's phone started playing loud music. Several people began dancing spontaneously. A police officer joined them. This was apparently normal. Humans don't do safe, Patricia said. We rode rockets into space before we fully understood the physics. We split the atom before we'd figured out all the consequences. We created the internet and immediately filled it with cat pictures and conspiracy theories. We're chaos wrapped in skin, and we're just getting started. Morven tried one final approach. Surely you don't want conflict with the established powers of the galaxy. Conflict? No. We prefer peace, actually. But here's the thing about humans. We're really good at adapting. Give us a challenge, and we'll engineer 17 different solutions, test them all simultaneously, and implement whichever one doesn't explode. Or sometimes the one that does explode, if it's cool enough. A child walked past eating bright blue cotton candy, completely unbothered by the aliens standing nearby. The child waved. Morven waved back automatically. So here's Earth's counteroffer, Patricia said. You leave. You tell everyone else to leave us alone for, let's say, 50 years. Give us time to get our house in order, finish our orbital infrastructure, maybe establish a few colonies in our own system. Then, when we're ready, we'll come visit you. As equals. As partners, maybe. But definitely not as subjects. And if the Imperium refuses? Patricia's smile widened. Then we show you Phase 3. Remember Phase 3? Nobody's seen it yet. We've been saving it for a special occasion. Morven absolutely did not want to know what Phase 3 entailed. I will relay your message to the Council, she said formally. Appreciated. Oh, and analyst? One more thing. Yes. Tell them we figured out the Vrexian communications protocols. and the Quilvan encryption, and the Zynthian Hive network architecture. We've been listening to everyone's traffic for the past month. Every fleet movement, every strategic discussion, every classified operation. You might want to update your security. The delegation returned to their ship in silence. As they lifted off, Morven composed her report. It took 3 hours and included the words potentially catastrophic threat level more times than she was comfortable with. The Krell Imperium Council read her report. Then they read it again. Then they did exactly what Thrakos had done. They added Earth to the restricted list and pretended it didn't exist. But in the quiet spaces between stars, in the cantinas and trading posts where species mingled and gossiped, a new understanding spread. There was a world called Earth. It was inhabited by creatures called humans. They were technically primitive but functionally insane. They had weaponized everything from garbage to radio waves to their own unpredictability. They were building something in orbit that probably violated several laws of physics and definitely violated all standards of safety. And they were coming. Not today, not tomorrow, but soon. On their own terms. In their own ships. Probably playing loud music and eating strange food and laughing at danger like it was a joke. The galaxy would never be the same. On Earth, General Vance stood in the rebuilt mission control, watching feeds from orbital construction. The framework of humanity's first real warship was taking shape. Not for invasion, for defense, for exploration, for showing the galaxy that humans belonged among the stars. General, someone called. We're getting quantum signatures. More ships dropping out of hyperspace. Vance sighed. How many this time? Just one, sir. Small vessel. They're broadcasting surrender. Surrender? They haven't even done anything yet. I know, sir. They're from something called the Praxian Republic. Says they heard about us and decided to skip straight to the part where they leave us alone. They're asking for a cultural exchange program and pizza recipes. Vance laughed. He couldn't help it. 3 months ago, humanity had been alone in the universe. Now they had terrified their way into galactic politics without firing a single shot. Tell them they can land. Schedule a meeting. And someone order more pizza. We're going to need it. In orbit above Earth, the debris field continued its deadly dance. But between the fragments, construction continued. Factories hummed. Refineries processed asteroid minerals. Solar collectors gathered energy. Humanity was building, growing, preparing. The galaxy had wanted to see what humans could do when threatened. They were about to find out what humans could do when given purpose. And somewhere in 17 different languages, the same warning spread through galactic networks. Whatever you do, don't bother the humans. They're friendly enough if you're peaceful. But if you threaten them, they'll turn physics itself into a weapon. And they'll probably do it while eating something called tacos and cracking jokes about your ship's design. The age of humanity had begun. The galaxy would adjust. Or it would learn. Either way, Earth was no longer just another planet. It was home to the most dangerous thing in the universe. Humans who had something to prove.